What was Victoria Fromkin thinking, making Pakuni count so weird? Me to biyeni amurani, me to masa. Today we're going to learn how to count in the Pakuni language. Welcome to Esperanto Variety Show. Esperanto Variety Show is primarily in Esperanto or about Esperanto, but I've been branching out a little bit to talk about some constructed languages, including the fictional language Paku from the show Land of the Lost. Serious fans of Land of the Lost or of fictional languages will already know that Pakuni is an invented language that was invented around 1974 when the show Land of the Lost came out, invented by UCLA linguist Victoria Fromkin. Victoria Fromkin said in an interview that she didn't really ever watch the show and didn't quite realize how popular it was until enough time had passed that her students were people who had watched the show as children. And so in 1995 she wrote up a quick summary of the language. But one curious thing in that summary, though, is a little bit about how Pakunis count. And when I read the document for the first time, I saw that Pakunis count in base 7. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why would you count in base 7? Just a quick comment to acknowledge that Esperanto Variety Show is supported by patrons on Patreon.com. Patreon is a good way to show your support for this channel, that you want to see more content like this. So please check us out, especially thanks to Ĉandlero and Ŝano and all the others who support us on Patreon. I do want to point out that none of what I'm going to be saying today, none of these details are actually in the TV show. So there's a question of canon. Is this really Pakuni? Is this really how Pakuni count? But it is in Victoria Fromkin's 1995 description of the language, and I think it's reasonable that this is actually something she intended to be part of the language right from the beginning. The closest we have to something from what I'm going to say today being in the show comes from the episode. It comes from the episode where Chaka is painting Todd's picture, and Holly wants to know, can all Pakuni paint the way you can paint? He said, no, I'm the first one. Me todari, Chaka todari. Todari means first. So anyway, so toda is one. There, we've done the first part. But before we get into this too much further, I want to talk about a little bit about when you construct a language, there's the difference between schematic and naturalistic languages. Schematic means that you sort of plan things out ahead of time. You don't look at an existing language and copy it. You say, well, if we wanted to name everything in the world, how could we name them? And one really extreme form of schematic language might be somewhat like the Dewey Decimal System. You know, you'd say anything that's a physical object is going to be in this category. And anything that's a physical object in this category that you can touch with your hands, right? So you play 20 questions and you end up basically defining everything in the world through some sort of scheme. And that doesn't really work well for languages, but it works okay for numbers, for small parts of languages. And the number system in Pakuni is actually very schematic. If we think about certain sounds that we make, specifically we're thinking about the letters. Now I do have to say, I'm always a little careful when I talk about constructed languages, because people who are really excited about constructed languages, they'll get mad at me for calling these letters. They're not letters, they're sounds, but most people know what I mean when I say a letter, right? So the letters T, K, P, and S. And these are the letters that Victoria Fromkin used in her description of the Pakuni language. Each of these letters block a little bit of air and then let some air through. So T has just a little bit of air coming through. K is a little further back in the mouth. K, lets a little more air out. P actually blocks the air, and then it all comes out all at once. And then finally, you can blow that all day long until you run out of air. So those are 4 letters in some kind of order. And if you don't believe me that with the air part of the story, just imagine this is the right order. T, K, P, and S. All right. So then we can add voice to these letters. So we have T, T, and then we add some voice, D, D. So that's T and D. T, T, D. K, 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 G. P, B, S. All right, so those are our 7 sounds now. So we can count in base 7 now using the words toda, doda, koda, goda, poda, boda, soda. That's counting to 7 in Pakuni. All right, so now we have to ask the question, why would they count in base 7? You don't have 7 fingers. We all know the Pakuni have 5 fingers. How did they learn to count? What do we have 7 of that you can count, right? I think some of this comes down to what the Pakuni are. I know Will says maybe they're just monkeys who are evolved like everything else in the Land of the Lost. I kind of like that idea. I don't think of them as early men, but it'd be interesting if you could leave a comment what you think the Pakuni are. Are they cavemen that got trapped, or were they somehow changed? Are they original inhabitants of the Land of the Lost? Where did they come from? I'd like to hear what you think about that below. So, but why base 7? And this really bothered me, and I thought, what was Victoria Fromkin thinking, making Pakuni count so weird? You know, they're simple people. They're simple monkey men. Why don't they count simply? And I was thinking about this a lot, and sort of going over in my mind the way the sounds are made too. The t, d, the k, g, and the p, b. That's sort of alternating with the voice and without the voice. And I thought, I know what you have 7 of. If you count on your hands, you can count 7 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So, toda, doda, koda, goda, poda, boda, soda. Right? So you have the voiced consonants are down here, and you have the unvoiced consonants up here. So the T, K, P, and S, T, K, P, S, and the D, G, and B down here. So I think that's how Pakuni must have counted in order for the 1995 description of the Pakuni number system to make sense. Now, as I thought about this a little further, it occurred to me that if you want to count with 2 hands, then you can only count up to 5, right? But if you count with 1 hand, toda, and they could start with their pinky, they could start with the index finger, but you count toda, doda, koda, goda, poda, boda, soda, right? And then once you get to soda, you've got sotoda. Sotoda. Sotoda is 7 and 1. Sotoda is 8. Sotoda. Right? So on one hand, I'm marking the fact that I've counted to the first grouping of 7. So this is 1 7. So, and this is toda. So it's 7 and 1, 8. And then if I want to say 2 7s, that would be dosoni. Dosoni. Dosoni would be how much? Dosoni would be 14. Dosoni toda, dosoni doda. What's up? I got the Three Stooges on the front porch. So in this way, by counting groups of 7 on one hand and then the other numbers on the other hand, they could count up to 48 on their fingers. The next question that bothered me is, how would they learn this, right? It just seems natural to me to count on your fingers. Maybe that's because I'm human and I'm not a evolved monkey man living in the Land of the Lost. And so you start thinking, oh, how did things work for them? How did things work for the Pakuni? And you remember that there was that episode where Chaka was the first one to be able to paint, that we talked about. By the way, Todari means the first one, so we have, just like we have Toda, Doda, Koda, Goda, Poda, Boda, Soda, you have Todari first, Dodari second, Kodari third, Godari fourth, and so on. But how would they learn to count like that? I think what must have happened is that the same people that... Then remember in the episode The Musician, Chaka had no musical talent at all. He could just make the recorder... Oop. And then Chaka was approached by the tall red person who shrunk down to his size and was given the gift of music, given the ability to make music. So it seems quite possible to me that those same people might have been evolving the Pakuni as they develop, and giving them different skills they might need, such as the ability to count to 48 on their fingers. So there you have it. I was discussing this with a new friend, somebody I'd met in Milwaukee at the PopCon, and I asked, what do Pakuni have to count? What do they have 48 of? Right, the carrots are gigantic. You don't need 48 carrots. I think they didn't even know how to pick carrots. Carrots are gigantic, so you just need one little slice that'll feed the whole family for a day. Strawberries are big, right? You don't have 48 of anything. So he said, well, what about Sleestack? And I was like, just imagine a whole bunch of Sleestack running out, and Chaka starts going, Toda, Doda, Soda, Toda, Doda, Coda, Goda. Chaka, stop counting! Wom, wom, wom! So what do you think? What do you think about Pakuni counting to 7? Does that count as real Pakuni? Victoria Fromkin did write about it in 1995. Presumably it was part of her original notes, even though it wasn't in the show. Is that part of the canon? Does that count? Does that not count? No pun intended. Are you interested to find out more about what she wrote about there? If you do want to know more about Pakuni, I'm going to have a couple links up here that you can watch to a playlist of some videos I'm putting together about the Pakuni language, and also a subscription link or a video link, depending on when I get this published, depending on when you're watching the video, because I have some additional footage, including a discussion with the original Pakuni cast about their ideas and their memories of the Pakuni language. So stay tuned, stick around for Esperanto Variety Show. I hope you'll find this Pakuni language content interesting, and also just general language and Esperanto as well. So thanks for watching.